Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast. Ozcast. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
John Overton's going to be with us in a couple of seconds, along with his son Andrew, who is a brilliant chef. Albert Finney, English actor, the dresser, Under the Volcano. He dies at 82. Albert Finney. Albert Finney, yeah.
Died today.
No, yes, he died this day in 2019. John, you knew him?
Yeah, I did. I met him in the BBC. In the lift, and I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I'm trying to find the way out." He said, "I've been going round in circles for an hour, and I can't find out. If it's any consolation to you," I said, "it takes the average person 2 years to find their way out of this building. But come with me, I'll take you out."
Yeah, I don't know why all radio stations and television stations are like rabbit warrens.
Yes.
You know, they're all strangely designed.
Well, I'll tell you a story when people came in.
Caroline, tell everybody. Tell everybody. Come over here. Don't knock my wine over.
No. When he was going out with Diana Quick, we were all at dinner and went on to Annabelle's nightclub, and I danced with Albert Finney.
What was it like?
Oh, very nice.
Did he make a pass at you?
No.
How old were you?
20.
Oh, really? How old was he?
I don't know.
Well, when he died, he was 82, which is not really old.
No, this would have been in 84.
Well, I don't know how old he would have been then. But there you go. I don't think I've ever danced with anyone famous. How about you? John?
No, I've kissed a few actresses.
All right, tell me. There's nothing wrong with kissing and telling.
I nearly went home with Vanessa Redgrave on one occasion. It's a long story, really. We went to the theatre and Lynn Redgrave was there, and she was having trouble getting her mother in a wheelchair through the door. Nobody was helping. So I said, oh, I know who you are. I've helped your career. I was on the board of the Film Corporation and we prevented it closing. We got Shine made. You had a small part in Shine, so I've helped you. And anyway, we chatted away and I met the mother and everyone.
Because it was a whole acting family, wasn't it?
Yes. So at the end of the evening, the same situation. No one was helping her to get out. And she said, "Would you like to meet Vanessa?" I said, "I'd love to. Well, come down into the dressing rooms with me and Mother." And we went in and I was greeted with this wonderful kiss from Vanessa and given a glass of champagne. She had no idea who I was or anything. Yeah. The brother was there. Corin was there. And we chatted away, and come the end of the night, I thought, I'm going to get another kiss. You know, I'm not going to miss out on this. She's a great kisser. So the taxis came up, and just before she got in, I grabbed her, and we had a wonderful time.
But it's an interesting thing. Some people can kiss, and others can't. It's a gift, I think.
Yes.
You can't really learn it, can you? I mean,
no. Felicity Kendall is a great kisser, too, and a great hugger.
I kissed Lauren Bacall. That was memorable.
Yes, the good ones.
Yeah. She was over here doing Sweet Bird of Youth, I think. Was it called Sweet Bird of Youth?
Yes.
It was a play.
Yes, it was, yes.
Yeah. I remember that. If ever I write a book, I'm going to write about that. It's about the most famous thing that's ever happened to me.
I've had Judy Garland look down on me when I was concussed after being taken off.
Now he's trying to upstage me.
That is what Ed Pegg said the other night. You know, no, I don't mean to do that.
No, please.
That's the moments. You know,
I'm just trying to provoke you.
Well, yes. Well, Ed tried the other night too, because he's written a book about his career. Ed Pegg. I couldn't put it down. I finished reading it in 24 hours. The whole book. But no, I was playing rugby and in Windsor Great Park for Newbury, and suddenly this film crew turned up with Judy Garland and Dirk Bogarde to film a scene for the movie I Could Go On Singing. But they wanted background people, so they chose us as background. And some of us, we're supposed to be schoolboys, but some have great hairy legs in their 30s and 40s, but they were so far away. And I got concussed and taken off and was lying down on the ground, of course. And when I opened my eyes, there she was, very concerned, looking down at me. And I thought, I've died and gone to heaven, you know. But I didn't get a kiss or a hug or anything.
No mouth-to-mouth stuff.
No. And,
you weren't that sick.
Bogart just stood and stared, you know, at me.
He was a bit strange, I think, wasn't he?
A little bit, yes, I believe, yes.
So, yeah.
But a lovely smile when I met him at a book launch. I got a nice smile and a handshake and everything, but I only got the autographs of people I interviewed, so I didn't ever get his or Judy Garland's.
I don't know if you've signed our visitors' book. When you were here last, did you sign the visitors' book?
Not at all, no.
It's right there on the table. Please don't leave without signing the visitors' book.
Well,
and you brought a visitor yourself.
I did indeed, yes.
Your wonderful son, the chef.
Yeah, I know, and I'm so sorry.
Hello.
Peter isn't here.
Nice to see you.
Thank you for having me. I feel very honoured and blessed.
No, Peter Gers was here when your dad was here last time.
Yeah.
And they really got stuck in a most praising manner, most enthusiastic manner about you and your new book.
Yes. It's called Meet Me in the Cool Room. It's through...
Meet Me in the Cool Room?
Meet Me in the Cool Room, through Moonglow Publishing. It's been out for nearly 5 months. It's got absolutely gangbusters. It's gone crazy.
Right. Your first book?
My first book. Peter wrote an amazing review, which you can read online. Just Google Meet Me in the Cool Room. And Samuel Harris has written a fantastic review as well.
Yeah, she's great.
So I've been very honoured and very, very blessed to sort of have those two to give it some backing. But the book's doing really well. So it's an autobiography. It's about being a chef, working overseas. Very similar to Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential. But a lot more grittier, not as polished as Anthony's book.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably running a restaurant. Were you running the restaurant or just running the kitchen?
Just running,
which means the same thing, because if you don't get the kitchen and the kitchen people right, you just don't have a business, clearly. And I've always thought that the best person to own a restaurant was a chef. Having owned a restaurant myself, I recognised that period of my life. It was only a couple of years, but it was the hardest thing I ever did. Hardest thing I ever did.
It's very hard.
Yeah,
it's very hard. But there's a passion that goes with it as well.
Yeah.
And making people happy through food is a beautiful job. And I think if you don't have that passion, if you don't wake up in the morning and just go, well, what am I going to have for breakfast, or what am I going to have for dinner, and then it's probably not the game for you. But it's taken me all over the world. Lived in London twice, been to New York several times, all over Australia, cruise ships, and it's all in this really compelling autobiography, which took me 15 years to write.
Wow.
And I passed it around to a lot of publishers around Australia, and it got rejected. And
nothing wrong with being rejected.
I found the best way to manage rejection was to say I will be rejected 98 times. And just tick it off. Okay, there's no one. I've got 73 to go. I've got 42 to go. But the 2% is what counts, and you'll always get that 2% of someone just saying, "Hey, I think we've got something here." Yeah. And I got that through Tanya at Moonglow up in the hills, and I sent her the manuscript, and she was just floored by it. She said, "You had an amazing life. This book has to be read. It has to be. The stories have to be told. Yeah. People aren't going to believe what you've done." And the stories that go with it. So I was lucky enough that she saw that there was something in there, and we took us 12 months to edit it. And publishing a book is two of the hardest things I've ever done. Building a house and publishing a book, but it's a labour of love, and I call it beautiful anxiety, because there's always something on the top of your shoulder that gets you going.
Just with publishing a book, why would the publishers reject it? Are they taking some sort of financial risk in doing it? Do they kind of why would, if you're paying them to print it, typeset it, whatever's involved. Why do they say we don't want it? Because then isn't it just your risk?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or do they see it as, I don't know.
I didn't get a lot of feedback because everyone's writing a book, and so many people are writing books, and 90% of them are all the same. They're all sort of crime novel, erotica, sort of / Harry Potter / science fiction. They're all just the same.
Mm-hmm.
So they rejected me because there was a lot of swearing in it. I write from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a book that's being sugar-coated.
I seem to remember a lot of swearing in kitchens. Yes, I do remember that.
And kitchens are, like Anthony Bourdain said, he said it's a place for the socially inept. The people who can't manage normal society end up working in kitchens. So, which is true.
Did you come out as a chef and greet people from time to time? And
sometimes, yeah, sometimes. I'm not that sort of pretentious. I sort of try to, quite humble, and I sort of like to sort of.
Who taught you to cook?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I worked with a guy called Peter Reschke in Rundle Street at a place called Bolts back in the early 90s. And I cut my teeth there. And then I moved to London when I was 21. And I was lucky enough to work with a very good chef called Beck. I've forgotten her last name. That was 30 years ago. And then, of course, you go to trade school, so you learn all the basics there, which is hard because you don't get paid for it and you have to finance yourself. And a lot of the times we're going to trade school and learning traditional contemporary French and then going home and eating brown rice and baked beans, but you get through it, But yeah, look, I was lucky enough to work with some really good, talented chefs who, a lot of Europeans who are probably a bit quick-tempered, but at the end of the day, they taught me well.
But it's traditional, isn't it, that the chef is a cross between a tyrant and an artist.
Yeah, and
could make life miserable for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I worked with this
temperamental.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Absolutely. I won't say where, but it's in the book, but I worked with one chef in Queensland on an island up north, and he used to swear and yell at me all day, and slam things down, and I couldn't even put butter on bread properly without him getting pissed off. It was just, he's sort of towards his end of his retirement. Mm-hmm. But when he showed me things and I listened and I understood that it's hard to it's a lot of energy showing someone what to do while you've got 100 other things going on. So as I grew older, I learned to respect that. But at the time, he would yell at me, and I'd turn around. And one day I got the gusto to turn around, and I said, "Chef," and he said, "What?" And I said, "Are you going to yell at me all day or just for the first 12 hours?" And I probably can't say on air what he said back to me, but adjectives.
So there are obvious moments in your career where you kind of question the wisdom of being a chef, but you're stuck to it. Are you still chefing?
I am, yeah. I work for a company called Little Adelaide Catering, and they're great. They send me all over the place. I don't really want to work in hotels, and I've done that. I've sort of, did all that in my 20s. Yeah. But I still love it. I still enjoy it.
There's a lot of, I don't know, John. I mean, I've not really been to very, very many super restaurants. But it strikes me that there's an awful lot of tomfoolery and snobbery and nonsense that goes on with wine. Les would know about this. I mean, it's all, that was. Is it called Nouvelle Cuisine?
Nouveau Cuisine, yeah.
Nouveau Cuisine. This is where they, with great ceremony and great pomp, they bring out a plate, and then the thing is covered, and then with a flourish, the thing is removed, and there is a tiny little piece of There's a little tiny piece of meat and one pea and a tiny little, and it's supposed to be some sort of expression of art. I want a meal.
Yeah.
Well, go to Auchenderrick up at Mount Barker.
Auchenderrick?
Yeah, I had a brilliant meal there at Rotary on Monday night. And I love going into the kitchen afterwards and talking on top of my voice and saying, we had a tremendous night, thank you very much. And if I take the manager with me, they get to hear it. The chefs love it.
But real food, I mean, and plenty of it.
No, tremendous meal.
There was a restaurant in Sydney in Liverpool Street, just up the road from 2GB, where I would go and have a meal, and it was Spanish. It was called the Costa Brava. And the steaks, I don't know where they got them from, but the steaks were so big, the steak would hang off the sides of the plate. And it was abundant food and good food. And as I remember it, it was about $8 or $10.
Yeah.
Very, very cheap and very good.
Well, there's a saying that says you don't sell the steak, you sell the sizzle.
Oh, yes. So, I'm all for that.
Yeah, so probably 90% of hospitality is selling you something that you think is amazing. Yeah. And that's the art. That's the art, is producing something at cost and marking it up 300% and making the customer feel great when they buy it.
And quite often, the wine industry and the hospitality industry works a great deal on appearance like fashion. And trends change. I mean, for example, it's fashionable at the moment to have tapas type of food.
Pull the microphone over closer to you because...
They're small portions of food,
yeah,
but they've jumped the price on it. And you spend a great deal of money on your night out, and you go home, and on the way home you've got to jump into McDonald's to top up, which always defeats the purpose in my book.
No, I totally agree with you. What do you think of fast food?
I think it's evil. Yeah, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
After being,
why is it so damn popular?
It's cheap.
It's full of sugar and salt.
Oh yes.
It's quick. It's quick too.
I've spent a lot of time in America. I just got back, and sadly, Australia is sort of falling down the same path where it's cheaper to spend $5 on a Happy meal than it is to spend $4 on a bit of broccoli and a bit of fish. So it's teaching generations to become lazy, and it's also teaching generations that if food doesn't taste sweet or salty, then it doesn't taste good. And I think, you drive past McDonald's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's like a bloody nightclub. Yeah. You can't move. And I think the essence, we were always taught when we were kids to sit down and have a meal turn the TV off, have a meal and talk about your day. That's how we were growing up as kids.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And I think fast food's taking that away. It's the essence of the family. And these kids are growing up with everything fried. And it's really quite sad because Australia is such a rich country in food and abundance. We've got some of the best produce in the world. I mean, Central Markets it's outstanding.
Yes,
you've got everything you need. You've got fruit, you've got coffee. I mean, so I think it's evil. I think it's like cigarettes. I think it should be banned in sport, and it shouldn't be. It should be as alcohol and cigarettes are now banned in sport. Back in the 80s, it wasn't. And I think it should be because we're going down a very sad road in Australia.
And look, it's when we spoke with John Bruni this morning about the United States and what sphere of influence the United States can have on the rest of the world, and particularly with what Trump is doing currently. If we cast our mind back to the 50s and 60s when McDonald's and PepsiCo and CC bottlers start to really push outside the United States, they've Americanized commerce, they've Americanized food and food trends all over the planet. Because even the Vietnam War, the end result was getting McDonald's, PepsiCo and Burger King into Asia. Yeah. And they've won the war in that respect. Commercially, they've won the war because they've just pushed those major brands all over the planet.
Yeah.
And as Andrew says, the proliferation of that leads to very bad habits in the family with high sugar, high salt intakes. Then you got health problems, which then the government has to counter with cost to the taxpayer. It's just a vicious circle all around.
Yeah.
I've cut it all out and I've lost 40 kilos in 11 months.
Well, I wouldn't trust a thin chef I mean, I want my chef to look like he enjoys his food.
Yes.
And Andrew looks like he enjoys his food.
I think that's a compliment.
It is a compliment. It is a compliment. But tell me this. When I look around Adelaide, when I came to Adelaide originally in 76, there were so many restaurants. This is before the fringe benefits tax, by the way. And the station or the clients or whoever it was, they'd always take us out to lunch, or there'd be a dinner on, or there'd be something like that. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, people were doing business over a restaurant table. And it was perfectly legitimate, really. If you're doing business, you're doing business. It would have been far easier for the tax department or for Keating to have simply said, okay, well, from here on in, before you get the tax deduction, you're going to have to demonstrate or prove that this was a business lunch or a business dinner. And you could do that. You could. It would be easy. But there were restaurants like, there was a place over in Walkerville called The Establishment, which was wonderful and busy and atmospheric and interesting. There was Swain's down on Glen Osmond Road, and then later the Cork and Cleaver.
Pink Pig?
Pink Pig, well, that was sort of more like a hasty tasty. Dear Tony De Freitas, I don't know where. No, Tony's around the place. But he was a good restaurateur.
Remember the Grange restaurant at the Hilton?
Oh, yes, the Grange. Well,
and Wendy Point's not what it used to be.
No.
And that was an iconic.
And that Greek restaurant down there on Fullerton Road, Nick, I can't think of his name. Chloe's. The restaurant was called Chloe's. But which one? Pisces. Well, look, so many of these restaurants are closing or have closed.
A lot has changed. Times have changed, and we were just talking about this before. The margins in food are very, very minimal, and labour is very high. The skill level of chefs have changed, and that's probably partly because TAFE's it's not government funded anymore, so it's privately funded. So they're taking anyone in. Back when I went and applied for TAFE, you had to get a 95% in your exams. Otherwise, you weren't accepted. Yeah. And it was real Top Gun sort of cream of the crop. Yeah. You know, like they took the best of the best, the people who they could see potential.
Oh, yeah. But pursue excellence and give the right person the best job. If money was no object and somebody said, I'm going to back you in a restaurant, what sort of a restaurant would you come up with, and where would you put it? And what would it look like?
I wouldn't do fine dining because I think fine dining's dead. Has been dead for about 20 years.
Do you think it'll come back?
No, I don't. No, people want value for money. People. The times are tough at the moment. People are struggling.
But the cafe style thing, I don't know. I think that became popular with the fringe benefits tax because people went for the cheapest option.
Yeah. I've always said the best food comes from the poorest countries.
Yes, that's the point.
So I would do something very basic. I've worked in places like the British Hotel where they had their own barbecue.
Do you mean the British in North Adelaide?
North Adelaide.
Oh, I love that. That's good.
Cook your own steak. That's gone. You know, people don't want to go out for a meal and cook their own steak. You know,
but there might be legal issues if they blame the place for being cooked properly.
Yeah, well,
yeah. I mean, times have changed. I mean, gluten free, and there's a lot of food allergies that have come in. But if I did open a place, I would probably just really keep it simple and really homely and unique. Yeah. Some of the best, we were just saying that some of the best places, when I got to New York about 18 months ago, I've been to New York several times over the years, and I love New York. It's my favourite city in the world. And over time, and going back there post-COVID was very, very weird because a lot of the landmark establishment places that have been there since the 70s have all gone. It's heartbreaking. There's the margins in food are very hard, and it's only going to get tougher. And also, there's drink driving laws as well. Yeah. So people are very conscious.
Did you ever see that?
Some of my best experiences with food have been in places like Singapore with the so-called street food.
Oh yes.
You might be eating off a Laminex table, but the grub is excellent. And in fact, one of the markets in Singapore has had a Michelin fast food award. So it's been regarded very highly. And I've eaten street food literally off the street on the
It'd be a great job.
blocks of
It'd be a great job
Thailand,
going around
back
tax-free.
blocks of Malaysia, back blocks of Thailand, Vietnam, and the grub is sensational.
It'd be a great job being one of those people who tries out the restaurant. You know, awards the Michelin star or the Michelin. What did they get? A star or a plate or what? Plate. Yeah. But you know, did restaurant critics ever bother you?
Critics.
Yeah.
Ernest Hemingway.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Hemingway once said that critics are the people who sit on top of the mountain and watch the battle. And I think that's beautifully said. Critics give me the shits because they have no idea.
Especially
But they've
online.
got power.
They have a lot of power.
On the
That's-
internet
that's-
now, people write things down that they won't say in these, forums
Yeah.
and reviews and things. They'll make the most insulting comments
And it hurts.
that they wouldn't say.
It hurts. I mean, you go.
Of course
into
it does.
You do a 15-hour day, and none of us are robots. We have good days and bad days, and you get one bad meal that happens to be on a food blogger's table. Yeah, that could cost you your business.
Yeah, well, Caroline might be listening to this in the kitchen. If she is, she might come in and remind me of who it was. But there was a restaurant in Sydney, and the restaurant critic, the reviewer, was a very big name. Everyone knew him. He was a celebrity journalist. And the place was called the Blue Octopus or the Blue Crab or something like that. And he wrote this absolutely scathing criticism of the place. And instead of the restaurateur being angry, he sued the bastard. What was his name, Caroline?
Leo Schofield.
Leo Schofield, that's the one. Leo Schofield. Because he had been with, gay abandon for years and years and years, sending places bankrupt and people to the Gap to kill themselves because his careers were ruined because of these sort of criticism. Not only him, but people like him. Anyway, this restaurateur took Leo Schofield to court for defamation and won. He won. He won. That shut him up.
Because it's only defamation if it's in some way untrue. So what he was writing must have been
Well, the greater the truth, the greater the defamation, the greater the libel.
Yeah.
I don't know what the saying is, but if you can prove that this person has damaged your business by writing this stuff, you've got a case.
Isn't truth a defence though, with slander and libel?
Well, it's a
What you're
matter of
saying is
judgment
true.
because you've got a restaurant full of people, and here's this guy who sits in judgment of the place. Never mind what the customers, the real people who are paying, actually think. But, I mean, it must run through a chef's mind that out there in that room, there may be somebody, a poison pen poised, about to assassinate you and destroy your business. Well, it'd be a terrible, terrible feeling. Now, the customers are sitting in judgment, but that's okay. We all do that. Doesn't matter what we're buying.
Isn't that the truth everywhere, Jeremy? You look at the advertiser this morning and the motoring section has reviewed Toyota being one of the largest car manufacturers on the planet.
Yeah.
Is releasing a new EV into Australia, $70,000 worth of motor car.
Good luck with
and
that.
The journalist has absolutely slaved it. Said it's hard plastic inside, doesn't look good, doesn't perform well. It's a bucket of crap.
Well,
there is one person's opinion.
Yeah,
that
I know.
doesn't necessarily represent the truth, but
No.
it's one person's opinion.
But just on EVs, I think the sales crashed in November, December to an alarming state because people are now aware of the fact that if you buy an EV, you've got no resale value. And most of us like to think that we can get a little back at the end of the day after 7 years, but when you realise that they just don't hold their
The
value.
latest January sales data in Australia shows that 4% of all new car sales were EVs. Only 4%.
4%.
Which means we should look at the other side of the coin. 96% of the buyers said no to EVs. Even a bigger figure than the referendum.
Has that figure dropped, has it, Liz? That 4% is like...
It's dropping all the time around the planet.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm just probably just too traditional. I just like the idea of having a 4-engine car or a 6 or an 8.
That works.
That works and sounds like a car, looks like a car, and it's got a grill and exhaust pipes out the back. And it's not going to do any good, me not buying one. Anyway, it's just the way of the world.
I'll repeat myself from earlier on the program. There are over 22 million registered motor cars in Australia currently.
Yeah.
Not to mention all the ones that are sitting in your garage and Gary's garage and everyone else's garage that are unregistered.
Well, that's
and not
true.
to mention lawnmowers, motorboats, aircraft.
Yeah.
So we're going to replace all this stuff. And where's the big hole we're going to bury all this stuff in?
And what is the problem we are trying to fix? 1% of global emissions, for God's sake. God, and we're going to save the world. Oh,
Is Trump mad? Not really.
I know. Have you been to the Rising Sun?
Not for a while.
The Rising Sun is one of our sponsors.
Yeah, awesome.
And I love it. It's got an atmosphere. Well, I mean, it's 1845, I think it was built.
Yeah.
Handmade bricks. It was one of those. We were talking about him this morning. Gary mentioned his name. The guy, Anton and Lenice Schmidt. They created the Rising Sun, and it's a great tribute to them. It's had a couple of owners in my experience. Well, maybe 3 owners. Grant is the current owner, and no one really mucks it up. Thank God. No one mucks it up. They just sort of take the baton and take it to the next. Yeah, it is a very special restaurant, and I'm delighted that they're a sponsor of ours. So if you want to go along and enjoy a lovely meal, an atmospheric meal, trip to the bar. It's a beautiful bar. Wood and brass and all the sort of things you just don't see in one of these cafe-style restaurants. But when you say a restaurant that is different, has an appeal, I think you're absolutely right. But I don't know that there are too many Rising Suns around.
No. I know there's a restaurant that opened up in Los Angeles a few years ago, and the waiting staff were on bungee ropes.
Oh.
And they would be at the top of the roof, and they literally let go and hang onto a railing at the table and pour the wine, then let go, and then dong, you know.
So you wouldn't know whether to employ acrobats.
Yeah. That's pretty special.
It is.
Actually, I've just found Andrew's reference to Hemingway. Well, said Lou, snuggling into my arms and looking up at me with those big, beautiful blue eyes. Hemingway said that critics are those who sit on the hill and watch the battle. She smiled away, playing with my leg. Yeah, well, he also wrote, for whom the bell tolls. Take me out for breakfast, she suggested. God, I love that woman. And that's where we'll censor it, I think.
Okay. All right. Andrew, did you ever go to the restaurant or hear about the restaurant in New York? I think it was New York, where the owner, he also sort of worked as a maitre d' and worked the door and worked the room as only a great professional restaurateur can, with style. I mean, it's a performance, really. And his specialty was insulting.
Yeah.
People. You heard of that?
I have, yeah. It was big in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, you weren't anybody unless he insulted you.
Yeah.
So he would insult Sinatra
Yeah.
Okay, the bigger the name, the worse the insults at the top of his voice, but it meant that you had arrived. You were worth insulting.
Yeah.
I love that. Did it work? Well, yes, it was. The world has heard about this guy, and I can't think of his name, but it's an interesting gimmick.
Yeah.
Do you think restaurants need a gimmick?
In the short term, but it doesn't work in the long term. What people are after are just quality for money, good service, and when people walk in the door, the key is to make them feel like they're at home.
Value for money and
just good food. You shouldn't have to go to McDonald's.
And the personality of the chef and the personality of the restaurateur.
I was going to say friendly waiter.
Yes.
Interactive and chatty.
Look, I think the reality of life is people love to be valued. Love to be valued, love to be appreciated.
Yep.
If you ever want to make a woman happy, just give them loads of compliments, chocolates and champagne.
And money.
Yeah. Well, you know about that.
Andrew, last question.
Yeah.
What do you think of tipping?
In Australia?
Oh, anywhere. I know in America, I was hearing the other day that they actually put the tip on the bill and it starts at 15%, 20%, 25%, and some even dare putting 30% on the bill. And I don't know what happens to you if you just ignore that and just pay the bill without putting the tip on. I don't know. But I think waiters in America live on their tips far more than the waiters here, I think.
Yeah. We have GST in Australia.
Yeah.
So that's 11.5%, I think. 10%, yeah. We have that. And people are on very good wages. Our minimum wage is $23 an hour.
A lot of restaurants can't afford that.
Yeah. In America, their minimum wage is about $4 an hour.
Yeah.
So they live on tips.
Well, good luck with the book.
Thank you.
And it's called
Meet Me in the Call Room.
Meet Me in the Call Room.
Meet Me in the Call Room. It's available.
Great name. Where did you get the name from?
My publicist Tanya actually came up with it.
Okay.
Yeah, the original had a few names sort of bouncing around, and she was like, no. This is actually the Reader's Digest version. The original book was like, very thick. But it's available in Dillon's on the Parade, Dimmock's in the Mall, all major bookstores.
Okay.
In Adelaide. I've shipped to America and shipped to UK, all over Australia. $1 of each book goes to mental health.
Okay. And what is the next book going to be called?
I think it's going to be called Lucky Town.
Okay.
Yeah, is the scoop. And so like a prequel.
Okay. Which is the lucky town?
Probably Renmark. Growing up in a small country town.
Oh, no. It's the ultimate cultural shock coming from London to Renmark.
What's your dad's fate? Do you cook for your dad, do you?
Yeah.
Now and again.
Yeah, now and then.
Now and again.
When I have the night off.
I didn't
Busman's
know
holiday.
I didn't know he was writing this book until about 3 months ago. And he'd been writing it for, 15 years?
15 years.
Well, I tell you, Andrew, your dad is very proud of you.
I know, I'm very proud of him, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're a remarkable family. Remarkable family.
If I can just read something from it.
Sure.
So I've always loved poetry, and I've quoted the Bible in this book to give the book a bit of depth.
Yep.
But I sat down, and the nucleus of the book is about redemption, about starting off and going down a path in life where.
Get closer to the microphone.
Sorry, going down a path in life and then pulling yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And becoming a better person for it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of parallels in the book, but I did write this especially for it. Leaders, servants, Philistines, and the silent come and go through rivers of generations, but it makes no difference. It does not change thought, atmosphere, or domestic values, so let it go. Let the people speak, serve their purpose, and let them work. Let them provide, let them nurture, let them protect, love, and to serve the lesser of us all. Let them be themselves and let others follow. Let the righteous path that will lead the others to the same path be that of a wholesome path, and let the redemption of others be the lamb who follows the flock.
Very good.
So,
food and philosophy.
Food and philosophy.
I like it. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck with the book.
Thanks,
Don't forget to sign the visitor's book.
Yes.
No, it's here.
And
It's
your
right
dad?
here.
Oh, good. Thank you, John. Thank you for bringing him in.
That's all right. I wasn't sure how I was going to fit in today because I thought Peter was coming as
You
well.
always fit in, just
We've got some
fine.
things. No, I've learned a lot when it comes to that. I've always found it hard to get to restaurants because the peak of the day is 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And you don't feel like sometimes going out for a meal afterwards if it's been a traumatic time. Can I mention a couple of things before we go? Because I've had a few experiences in the last week or so.
Yeah.
I was stepping out of the back door and nearly onto a black snake that was 5-foot black snake lying on the doormat outside, which is pretty worrying. If I hadn't looked down, I would have stepped on it.
Yep.
So that was one thing. But also, I've had some trouble getting the car, to get here today for the last week. And the wonderful garage in Littlehampton, Petra Ross Motors, absolutely brilliant. I jumped the queue, they fitted it out. They've decided it was the battery in the long run, took the whole engine apart, and I'm just reading a book in the office and told to be quiet. So it's been a quiet week.
Well, I mean, you need a good mechanic.
Well, this guy, Brad, is absolutely brilliant, and he's also the officer in charge of the CFS at Mount Barker too.
Bless him.
Does a wonderful, and he wants me to go back there and register again as a sort of relief on the radio in the middle of the night when people need a break.
I think that wonderful voice over the radio would be a very welcomed thing to hear.
It wasn't in Brukanga because I spoke too posh. And I was having them, they were, and I had to say again and talk slowly. It's very hard to decipher what they're saying.
Well, when you pick up your telephone and you're getting a call from the Philippines and they're trying to sell you something, I mean, try to understand that little lot.
Yes, or even anybody, even from Mount Gambier or somebody trying to sell you something. And the other thing, I wasn't sure how I was going to fit in today. There's a wonderful fringe show coming up.
Yep.
The dancer of friend of mine, Shakti. And she's doing 3 performances, 21, 22, 23, behind the town hall in Perry Street.
Okay.
And she's an international performer. She's been doing the show in 6 countries last year. And is absolutely brilliant, and that will be well worth going to see.
Yeah, why don't you bring her in next time you come?
I could do, but that's March when the show's over.
Oh, yes.
But I'm going to bring my psychic in. You wanted to meet my psychic.
I'd like to meet your psychic, yes.
Yes, so would I. I want to hear what she's going to say now, because she says, I'm going to marry in 2 years.
Good boy.
And I said, who? And she said, well, take photographs of every woman you go out with, and I'll tell you which one it is.
Well, we're all coming to the wedding. John, great to see you again. Andrew, thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.